Koichiro Sujia, PhD, the Honorable Host Professor Dr. Hakim Bangun, Apotheker, Professor Yosua Sinohara, PhD, Vice Dean Faculty of Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara, Chairman of Master and Doctoral Pharmaceutical Sciences Program, Universitas Sumatera Utara, Professor and staffs in Faculty of Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara, and all participants enjoying the webinar. Second, I would like to express my gratitude and congratulations to the organizing committee from the Master and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Sciences Programs, Faculty of Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara, for their effort in arranging this webinar. This event is conducted regularly to increase and update our knowledge in the field of pharmaceutical science. The topic of today's webinar is nitric acid is physiological effect through nitric oxide dependent and independent manner. As we know, nitrate performs physiological function in the various systemic activities such as blood pressure reduction. Thus, this webinar is essential to update our knowledge about the role of nitric oxide in the physiological function of nitrate. This webinar is a part of implementing our cooperation between the Faculty of Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara, and the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Tokushima University. Both the faculty have a long story of relationship facilitated by Professor Dr. Hakim Bangun and Professor Yosua Sinohara, PhD, implemented in various activities such as visiting professor and invited speaker in the webinar and conferences. I hope that our cooperation gets stronger day by day and bring significant benefit, especially to both faculties. Finally, I wish the webinar success. And by Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I open this webinar. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Khairunisa. Before proceeding to the next agenda, I would like to ask you to turn on your camera for taking pictures. Please turn on your camera, please. Okay, first screen. Second screen. Third screen. Fourth screen. Okay, thank you. Before we proceed to the talk session, we would like to inform you that new students enrollment for the Masters and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Sciences program, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Thank you. For the first round has started and will be closed on the 10th of May. The second round will be performed from 11th Before May. We proceed to the talk session, we would like to inform you that new students enrollment for the Masters and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Sciences program, we welcome you to join Pharmacy, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Thank you. For the first round has started. Visit our website on the 10th of May. The second round will be performed from 11 Before we proceed to the talk session, we would like to inform you that new students enrollment for the Masters and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Sciences program, we welcome you to join Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Thank you. For the first round has started. Visit our website on the 10th of May. The second round will be performed from 11. Before we proceed to the talk session, we would like to inform you that new students enrollment for the Masters and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Sciences program, we welcome you to join Farmasi, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Thank you. For the first round has started. Visit our website on the 10th of May. The second round will be performed from 11. Before we proceed to the talk session, we would like to inform you that new students enrollment for I'm sorry, there is a problem in the connection, sorry. Okay, I would like to continue. Before starting the talk, I would like to inform you that you will have the opportunity to ask a question directly by raising your hand or submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your name, affiliation, and inquiries into the chatting room. You may send in your questions during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Next, let's proceed to the main agenda, a webinar on the topic of nitrate exerts its physiological effects through nitric oxide dependent and independent manner with Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya, PhD from the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Tokushima University, Japan. Ohayo gozaimasu, Prof.
Oh, thank you very much. So, can you hear of my voice?
Yes, I can hear your voice clearly.
Okay, so I'll share my slide.
Okay, so allow me to invite Professor Hakim Bangun to become moderator, Prof.
Okay.
Okay, please, Professor Hakim Bangun to start this session. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Good morning, Professor Tsuchiya.
Morning.
And also Professor Shinohara. Good morning. First of all, I would like to say many thanks to Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya for his willingness to give an online seminar today. This seminar is one of the realization of the MOU between the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Sumatera Utara, and the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Science, the University of Tokushima. The MOU was met in 2016 and was renewed again in 2021. I hope that when the pandemic is over, we can make offline seminars. I also thank Professor Yasuo Shinohara from the Institute of Genome Research, Tokushima University, for your participation in this webinar. He is my classmate during my doctoral program at the Tokushima University about 35 years ago, long time ago, from 1986 to 1990. At the time, Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya was a master's program student. So I met Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya for the first time when I was studying in Tokushima. After that, I met Professor Tsuchiya several times when I visited Tokushima University. Before starting the online seminar, let me read the short curriculum vitae of Professor Kuchiro Tsuchiya. Education, Bachelor of Science from Department of Pharmacology, the University of Tokushima in 1989. A Master of Science from Graduate School of Pharmacology, the University of Tokushima in 1991. PhD from Tokushima University School of Medicine in 1997. Position, Research Assistant, Tokushima University School of Medicine from 1993 to 1997. Associate Professor, Department of Clinical Pharmacology, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, the University of Tokushima from 2003 to 2007. Professor, Department of Medical Pharmacology, Graduate School of Pharmaceutical Science, Tokushima University from 2007 until now. Now, Professor Kuichiro Tsuchiya is the Dean of Faculty of Pharmaceutical Science, University of Tokushima. Publication, Professor Tsuchiya has published many papers. He has published around 50 papers in the last 10 years. Now, let's welcome Professor Tsuchiya to start the webinar with the topic nitrate exerts physiological effects through nitric oxide, dependent and independent. Please welcome you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. So I will start my presentation. So I'll share my slide. Please wait a moment. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So now I'll start my presentation. So anyway, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm Koichiro Tsuchiya, Dean of Tokushima University of Faculty of Pharmacy. Today, I'd like to show you about nitrite exert its physiological effects through nitric oxide dependent and independent manner. Hi. Before I begin my talk, let me give you a brief introduction of the Faculty of Pharmacy of Tokushima University and Tokushima Prefecture. Tokushima Prefecture is located on an island called Shikoku Island. The island area of Tokushima Prefecture is 4,000 square kilometers, and Tokushima Prefecture has a population of 800,000. Tokushima topography makes for climate diversity. Average temperature is about 17 degrees, and Tokushima Prefecture has annual precipitation of about 1,000 millimeters. This is a view of Central Station of Tokushima. From here, I will introduce some of the tourist attractions of Tokushima Prefecture. This is a mountain called Bizan, located in the center of Tokushima City. It is 290 meters above sea level and is easy to hiking spot. This is the Yoshino River, which flows through Tokushima Prefecture and whose width is the second largest in Japan. The Naruto whirlpool, or the Naruto spot, is formed by the tide, a natural phenomena known for their world-class scale and size. Large whirlpool reaches up to 20 meters diameter. In ancient time, people built many of these kind of bridges made by wine. like this. And our Odori Dance Festival is held between August 12 to 15 every year and is enjoyed by more than a million domestic and international visitors each year. Soba noodle is a famous noodle in Japan, and sriracha shitoras, it is be called like lemon and any kind of cooking. It's surrounded by the sea, so fresh seafood is available all the year. The University of Tokushima has two campuses. The Faculty of Pharmacy is located in Kuramoto area. The Kuramoto campus is home of many kinds of life science faculties shown here, including medical, hospital, and dental, and everything, and including Faculty of Pharmacy here. This is a building of Faculty of Pharmaceutical Science. The Faculty of Pharmacy Sciences of Tokushima University was established by Dr. Nagayoshi Nagai in 1922 and will celebrate its 100th anniversary next year. The number of graduates is about 6,500. Thank you for watching. Next, I'd like to introduce myself. I graduated, as Dr. Bangon introduced, from the Faculty of Pharmacy Science, Tokushima University, 37 years ago. My specialty was analytical and transition metal research at that time. And when I was a master student, I met Dr. Bangon at the campus. So after that, I worked at a community pharmacy and then moved to University Hospital as a pharmacist. During this time, I continued experience after work and got a PhD degree. Then I got an academic position at medical school and continued my research. And when I was associate professor at medical school, I studied abroad at NIEHS in North Carolina, USA for 2 years, and I enjoyed my research. Japanese pharmacy system has changed in 2006, so I returned to Faculty of Pharmacy School as associate professor, and then I'm here today. So in 2019, we signed the first agreement with your university, and this is a picture of that at that time. And in 2021, we renewed the MOU again, and this is a picture of at that time. And we had a good time after the signing ceremony. Anyway, I'll go back to my talk. Here is my research history. So I have developed a simple and accurate method for measuring reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species in vivo and in vitro by using EPR equipment, and have this method in a variety of studies. Today, I'd like to introduce our research that I've been conducting since 2010 on the physiological effect of nitrate anion. The photo on the right side shows the EPR spectroscopy that I've been using. Much of today's presentation was done utilizing this instrument. This device can specifically measure compound with unpaired electron, and thus can measure several kinds of reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species with high sensitivity and accuracy. So today's topic that I will present as nitrite exert its physiological effect through nitric oxide dependent and nitric oxide independent manner according to the following order. First of all, I will introduce the nitrogen cycle, then what happened in the body when nitrate and nitrite are ingested. Next, the interconversion of nitrate, nitrite, and nitric oxide in the body. And finally, new physiological effects of nitrite anion will be presented. This will show a nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen make up 78% of the gases formed in our atmosphere. Nitrogen is fixed by soil bacteria inhabiting the plant roots. These bacteria chemically combine the nitrogen in the air to produce nitrate and ammonia, making it available to the plants. Organisms that eat plants ingest nitrogen and release them into organic waste. The nitrophilin bacteria return nitrogen as nitrogen gases into the atmosphere. We call this system as nitrogen cycle, and we are part of it. On the previous slide, I explained that nitrogen is taken up by plants. This table shows the contents of nitrate in vegetables. Chinese cabbage and celery have nitrate a lot, and consuming more vegetables means we are consuming more nitrate and nitrite from them. This shows the elements of our body. 99% of the mass of the human body is made up just 6 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, potassium, phosphate, and others. Among these elements, nitrogen is considered to be produced by decomposition of amino acid derived from such as soybean and meats. By the way, by eating vegetables, the nitrogen atom derived from nitrate and nitrate in vegetables, not a source of nitrogen for our bodies. Here's an introduction to nitrate and their relationship to human history. According to literature, nitrate have been used as anti-inflammatory drugs since the 12th centuries. Also, it's being used as seasoning due to their bitter taste. In addition, nitrate have also been used as a preservative agent. And nowadays, nitrite itself is widely used as a coloring agent for meat.
Ada jawabannya di depan.
As shown in previous slide, while nitrite is used for beneficial things to humans, on the contrary, nitrate was reported to be carcinogenic agent when coexisting with animals under acidic conditions and producing nitrosamine by the following reactions. It was estimated that this reaction is likely to occur under the condition where the nitrite and hydrogen ion coexist, that is, in the stomach. In the stomach in vivo, and this reaction pay attention to the occurrence of gastric cancer. However, most recent epidemiological studies have reported no correlation between nitrite intake and gastric cancer in humans. In the early 1970s, there was an outbreak of liver disorder, including cancer in farm animals in Norway. And it was found that these animals consumed nitrite-added farming meal. This phenomenon, however, now understood to be unique to rodent and ruminants. Besides being carcinogenic, nitrite carries the risk of causing methemoglobin mineral. Nitrate, when contained in infants' food, as a concentration of over 50 milligrams per kilogram, may react with hemoglobin to produce methemoglobin, reducing its ability to carry oxygen in the blood. This shows that this disease occurs in children with insufficient gastric acid secretion because a large amount of nitrate ion is transferred to the bloodstream without being decomposition in the stomach and bind to hemoglobin. However, in adults with sufficient gastric acid secretion, it is not a serious problem. Based on the above-mentioned phenomena, in order to identify the acceptable daily intake of nitrate, researchers administered a variety amount of nitrate to rats for 2 years, and identifying the maximum amount of nitrate to be totally harmless, and it was decided to be 370 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. Similarly, this acceptable daily intake of nitrate was determined to be 3.7 milligrams per kilogram per day using a safety factor as 100 in Japan. Here again, I'd like to focus on the nitrate contained in vegetables. And this table shows a daily intake of nitrate in Japan provided by Japanese Ministry of Health. As can be seen, nitrate intake exceeds the acceptable daily intake called ADI for all generations. Certainly, daily nitrate intake cannot be directly compared to ADI values since vegetables and other foods contain many kinds of antioxidants that reduce nitrosamine formation even under acidic conditions. But it is important to remember that nitrate intake is much higher than we expected. For example, if a person weighing 50 kilograms eats 200 grams of Chinese cabbage or 500 of radish, the intake of nitrate will exceed ADI. Nitrate is reduced to nitrite in the body, and the nitrite produces nitrosamine and the acidic condition of previous slide, which was reported to cause gastric cancer in rodent. And there was concern that the same could happen in humans. However, epidemiological studies have reported that there is no clear correlation between nitrate intake and the occurrence of gastric cancer. And conversely, there is a negative correlation. Next, I'll explain what happened to the nitrate in the body. When nitrate is ingested, it is rapidly absorbed in the upper small intestine, and about 75% is excreted to the urine within 24 hours. The remaining 25% of ingested nitrate undergoes enterosalivary recirculation, and it is concentrated in the salivary gland and then secreted in the saliva. The rate of microbial reduction of which nitrate change to nitrite in the oral cavity is reported to be around 10 to 20% of total ingested nitrate. And the nitrite is moved into the stomach by swallowing. In the stomach, nitrite concentration drop in the comparison to the upper area, suggesting that nitrite may be absorbed to the circulation or decompose to nitric oxide under acidic condition. It has been reported that human blood always contains trace amount of nitrate. According to the reported literature, nitrate ingestion is 3.3 milligram per day, and nitrate is from 40 to 130 milligram per day for normal subject, and 260 milligram per day for vegetarians. Based on the rate of microbial reduction of nitrate mentioned on the previous slide, the maximum intake of nitrate is expected to be about 40 milligram per day for vegetarians. By the way, nitric oxide is known to have various physiological effects, such as organ protection as well as vasodilation. And nitric oxide is produced by nitric oxide synthesized using L-arginine as a substrate, which are believed to be the only way to produce nitric oxide in body. However, we have reported that nitrate is reduced to nitric oxide in an enzyme-independent manner at acidic condition, and that nitric oxide synthesis independent pathway is promoted in the presence of reducing agent, including ascorbic acid and quercetin in vitro. Therefore, we have hypothesized that orally ingested nitrite is broken down into nitric oxide in gastric juice, and that this nitric oxide is distributed to the body and play a physiological role in it. At that time, however, it was very difficult to measure nitric oxide in the blood directly, because the lifetime of nitric oxide is very short, and it was also difficult to distinguish between orally ingested nitrite and nitric oxide produced by L-arginine. So we overcome this problem by developing a method to elevate the blood nitric oxide concentration using the EPR method, as shown in this literature. Nitric oxide is rapidly trapped by deoxyhemoglobin in blood and form a stable complex alpha nitric oxide deoxyhemoglobin, which shows a typical EPR signal, while oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin itself and methemoglobin, which are dominant in blood, however, show no EPR signal. We have established a method to measure nitric oxide in body by measuring alpha nitric oxide hemoglobin using a deoxyhemoglobin in an erythrocyte as a natural nitric oxide trapping agent. Furthermore, we have devised a method to distinguish between endogenous and exogenous nitrogen by using a stable isotope of nitrogen. This is because the shape of EPR signal derived from N15 nitric oxide hemoglobin and N14 nitric oxide deoxyhemoglobin are different, as shown in this slide. So using this EPR and stable isotope of nitrogen, we have performed 4 animal experiments to address the question proposed here. First, whether nitric acts as systemic source of nitric oxide. Second, does nitrate attenuate systemic blood pressure of LNM-treated hypertension rat? Third, does renal ischemia induce nitric oxide production from nitrate? And fourth, does dietary dose of nitrate prevent renal disease induced by LNM hypertension rats? First of all, we investigate whether nitrate acts as systemic source of nitric oxide or not. To determine whether nitrate acts as a systemic source of nitric oxide, we conducted the following animal experiments. Rats were given tap water for 1 week, and on day 8, sodium nitrate was administered orally, and after which blood was drawn from and EPR measurement of whole blood were performed to see if alpha nitric oxide hemoglobin appear in the blood. The results shown the control rat show a very small alpha nitric oxide hemoglobin derived signal. However, this EPR signal was enhanced by sodium nitrite administration, like here. Furthermore, to clarify the hypothesis that orally administered nitrite contribute to the nitric oxide production, we use a stable isotope of N15 instead of N14 and found that N15 derived EPR signal, doublet signal, was indicating that orally administered nitrite can be a source of circulating nitric oxide as nitric oxide hemoglobin. This slide shows the time course of blood nitric oxide hemoglobin concentration after nitrite injection, indicating that nitric oxide is produced in the blood immediately after administration. This suggests that change from nitrite to nitric oxide occurred mainly by acid decomposition in the stomach and salvaged by hemoglobin in the red blood cell, we expected. Next, we investigate whether nitrite attenuates systemic blood pressure on LNM-treated hypertension rats. LNM-induced hypertension is a well-established method of hypertension related to nitric oxide deficiency. Rats were divided into 4 groups as shown here, and all animals except control were given indicate amount of LNM with or without sodium nitrite in tap water for 3 weeks. And systemic blood pressure was measured by cuff method, and on the 24th day, rats were sacrificed and venous blood was collected for EPR measurement. And this one shows a change in systemic blood pressure by nitrate administration, and after 3 weeks of LNM treatment, systemic blood pressure increased up to 170 mmHg, and when nitrate was added, it decreased in a concentration-dependent manner. In other words, nitrate was found to reduce blood pressure in animals that were hypertensive due to nitric oxide deficiency. Next, we examine whether nitric oxide production from nitrite is induced by renal ischemia. The purpose of this experiment was to determine whether nitrite has an organ protective effect via nitric oxide production in nitric oxide deficient animals. This slide summarizes the nitrite concentration in main organs. Nitrite is considered a toxic compound. As an oral lethal dose in rat is reported 180 mg per kilogram. However, interestingly, nitrite is presented throughout the body in various concentrations as shown in this slide. and kidney contain 69 micromolar per kilogram of nitrite. It has been reported that nitric oxide production independent of nitric oxide synthesis occur during renal ischemia. So this finding had led us to hypothesize that renal ischemia might induce nitric oxide production from nitrite. Then we investigate whether nitric oxide production from nitrite is induced by renal ischemia. First, rats were divided into 3 groups shown here. Then, nitrate was infused from femoral vein for 20 minutes under anesthesia conditions. The renal artery and vein were then occluded for 40 minutes to induce ischemia, followed by reperfusion for indicated time. After reperfusion, blood was collected and left nephrotectomy was performed. Kidney tissue was subject to tissue nitric oxide measurement by also using EPR technique. In this experiment, 15 nitrate was used to distinguish between the nitrogen atoms in the body and the nitrite administered. When that was subject to 40 minutes ischemia and after 15 nitrate treatment, clear nitric oxide hemoglobin formed was observed in the kidney. Here. However, blood was the same. However, the blood was the same as that of same operated mouse rat. On reperfusion to the kidney, nitric oxide hemoglobin concentration in the kidney decreased compared to ischemia, like here, and nitric oxide hemoglobin in the circulating blood increased instead, like here, suggesting that nitrate can be a source of nitric oxide during ischemia, and reperfusion transfer nitric oxide hemoglobin from the kidney to blood. A possible mechanism for the formation of nitric oxide from nitrite is acid decomposition of nitrite. However, nitric oxide production by acid decomposition occurs at pH 3 or lower. And in ischemia kidney, the pH drop only up to 6.5. So, acid decomposition of nitrate in kidney cannot occur, I expect. So, a possible pathway for nitric oxide generation from nitrite is an enzyme-mediated pathway was reported. And several enzymes have been reported to contribute to the reduction, including nitric oxide synthesis and xanthine oxidase. Therefore, we studied whether these enzymes contribute to the nitrite reduction in ischemic kidney using specific inhibitor and obtained the following results. The nitric oxide synthesis inhibitor Ilmu had no effect on nitric oxide hemoglobin production, whereas the xanthine oxidase inhibitor alpurinol effectively inhibit nitric oxide hemoglobin formation. This data suggests that in the kidney, xanthine oxidase may contribute to nitric oxide production from nitrite, I expect. To summarize the previous points, ingested nitrite is converted to nitric oxide in the blood and lowered blood pressure in an animal model of nitric oxide deficient hypertension. In addition, nitrite can be an alternative source of nitric oxide in ischemic kidney. However, since these experiments were conducted with very high nitrite concentration of nitrite, so it is necessary to clarify whether The physiological concentration of nitrite can exert physiological effects. Therefore, we examine the effect of chronic administration of nitrite at a level of daily intake in the diet on an animal model of renal injury caused by chronic ingestion of Ilmu. To address this hypothesis, low dose of nitrite with 0.1 mg of sodium nitrite of drinking water, medium dose of 1 mg nitrite, and this value is correspond to the daily amount of nitrite of vegetarian, and high dose, which include 10 mg of sodium nitrite, were administered to rats treated with Ilmu for 8 weeks. During the experiment period, body weight continuously increased in all groups, and there's no difference in body weight between the group during these 8-week experiments. And systemic blood pressure was identical among the 5 groups at the beginning of this experiment. Hypertension was induced after 8-week treatment of Ilmu administration, and blood pressure at the end of the experiment in Ilmu-induced rat was significantly lower with high dose of nitrite, shown here. However, administration of daily level of nitrite tend to decrease systemic blood pressure. However, these changes are not significant. As mentioned in the previous slide, Ilmu treatment significantly reduced blood nitric oxide hemoglobin signal intensity. So, co-administration of low-dose nitrite is similar to that of Ilmu alone. However, the blood nitric oxide hemoglobin signal intensity of medium dose and high dose nitrite were significantly higher than Ilmu alone. To address kidney dysfunction, urinary protein level was measured as an indicator. This shows 24-hour urinary protein excretion in rat treated with Ilmu or Ilmu plus nitrite for 8 weeks. The Ilmu treatment significantly increased the urinary protein excretion, and low dose of nitrite treatment did not decrease the excretion. However, urinary protein excretion was significantly decreased in the medium and high dose of nitrite compared to the Ilmu treated animal, and this phenomenon of proteinuria was confirmed by the administration of nitrite, and histological change in the kidney were examined. As shown in this slide, a medium dose of nitrite reduced the glomerular damage caused by Ilmu. Given the morphological change observed on the previous slide, this slide summarizes the results of the glomerular ischemic index, protein droplet, and cerebral interstitial injury score measured on 100 glomeruli. As noted on the previous slide, nitrite at moderate dose or high dose significantly improved the Ilmu-induced glomerular damage, whereas low dose of nitrite had no significant effect. And taking these results and previous data of cycling blood nitric oxide hemoglobin level, the beneficial effect of dietary nitrite on the renal tissue damage from chronic Ilmu treatment appear to depend on nitric oxide to the extent that it does not attenuate blood pressure elevation. So far, we have shown that nitrite is reduced into nitric oxide independent of nitric oxide synthesis in ischemic kidney, and oral administration of nitrate ameliorate systemic blood pressure and renal function in LNM-treated rats. Next, I'd like to present the result of our study on the new physiological effect of nitrate and nitrate. So in 2010, Lundberg reported that dietary inorganic nitrate reverse feature of metabolic syndrome in end-cellular nitric oxide sensor deficient mice. As mentioned above, since nitrate is changed to nitrate in the body, so we examined whether the same thing will happen with nitrate. In order to clarify the mechanism, and influence of nitrate on sugar lipid metabolism, a high-fat diet was given to Western male rat and nitrate was given in drinking water. And after 2 weeks, the oral glucose tolerance test, blood triglyceride level, and fasting insulin level were measured. There was no difference in body weight between the 8 high-fat diet and 5-fat diet plus nitrate group. In terms of dietary intake, the 5-fat diet has more calories per unit weight, so intake was lower, but there's no difference associated with nitrate loading. The administration of high concentration of nitrate resulted in blood nitrate level about twice as high as those in the normal diet and 5-fat diet group. One week after administration of nitrate, the nitrate group showed a significant decrease in fasting blood glucose level and significant suppression of increase in blood glucose after 30 minutes, after glucose administration compared to the high-fat diet group in the oral glucose tolerance test. This suggests that nitrate has an effect of suppressing the rise in blood glucose. However, there was no change in the insulin level. This suggests that nitrate does not improve insulin resistance, but inhibit gluconeogenesis in the liver, we expected. In addition, as shown in this figure, the insulin tolerance test showed insulin sensitivity tend to improve in the nitrate-treated group compared to the high-fat diet group. Therefore, we calculate HOMA-IR, an index of insulin resistance. The nitrate-treated group show a significant decrease compared to the high-fat diet group, suggesting that nitrate administration improves insulin resistance. The blood triglyceride level in the same animals were found to be significantly lower in nitrate group than in the high-fat diet group, and at higher dose of nitrate, the level were reduced to control level. Examine change in the expression level of genes related to the lipid metabolism. So we measure the liver messenger RNA level of SREBP1C and CHREBP, which are molecules related to lipid metabolism. As a result, both molecules showed a significant concentration-dependent decrease in nitrate-treated group, shown here. However, it is unclear how nitrate alters the expression of these genes. So we therefore focus on the molecule of AMPK, 5-AMP activated protein kinase, NPK is heterotomimetic serine kinase and is known as an energy sensor enzyme. NPK is activated by an upstream kinase and decrease in ATP level and suppress gluconeogenesis and fatty acid synthesis through downstream signaling by SREBP1C and CHREBP, whereas promoting fatty acid oxidation and glucose uptake. Therefore, it is considered that to be an important enzyme in glycolipid metabolism. When nitrate was added to rat hepatocyte, when we administer nitrate to a rat hepatocyte, phosphorylation of NPK means activation of NPK and ACC, which is downstream of SREBP1C and CHREBP were observed. This result indicates that phosphorylation of NPK is involved in glycolipid metabolism of nitrate. Furthermore, since nitrate activates NPK, we decided to investigate how nitrate is involved in the activation of NOS by NPK. First, we examine the effect of nitrate on eNOS phosphorylation HEGC human renal glomerular cells, which used in this experiment. The cells were stimulated with nitrate, and the phosphorylation of NOS was examined by Western blotting, and the form confirmed that eNOS phosphorylation increased in response to nitrate concentration, shown here. And AMPK is known to exist upstream of eNOS and phosphorylate eNOS. Therefore, to confirm whether the eNOS phosphorylation on the previous slide was due to AMPK, we examined phosphorylation of AMPK by nitrate. As shown in this slide, AMPK phosphorylation was shown to be increased by nitrate in a concentration-dependent manner, as in the case of eNOS. To reconfirm the phosphorylation of AMPK by nitrate, we also measure the phosphorylation of ACC, which exists downstream of AMPK and phosphorylated by AMPK. As a result, ACC phosphorylation was also increased by nitrate, and this result further confirmed that nitrate-induced phosphorylation of NPK occurred. And in a paper reported in 2010, nitrate was shown to improve glycolipid metabolism. However, based on our results, we thought that nitrate was the active form of improving glycolipid metabolism. Therefore, we examined whether phosphorylation of eNOS, NPK, and ACC was observed by nitrate, not nitrate. The results shown that there was no concentration-dependent increase in the phosphorylation of this molecule under nitrate stimulation, as was observed with nitrate. So far, we have shown that nitrate activates NPK. As shown in animal experiments, nitrate is also known to produce nitric oxide by enzymes such as stannous oxidase, and nitric oxide also activates NPK. Therefore, we conducted an experiment to determine whether the activation of NPK by nitrite is due to nitrite ion itself or through the nitric oxide. Therefore, we use the nitric oxide scavenger carboxy PTIO. phosphorylation of NPK by nitrate was inhibited by the nitric oxide scavenger. Based on these results, we hypothesize that nitrate-induced phosphorylation of NPK is caused by nitric oxide anion itself, not nitric oxide. Next, we investigate whether inhibition of NPK inhibitors. Next, we investigate whether inhibition of NPK inhibits eNOS activation. Pre-treatment with BML-275, a specific inhibitor of NPK, inhibit the nitrite-induced phosphorylation of eNOS. This suggests that NPK is involved in the phosphorylation of eNOS by nitrate. These results suggest that nitrate may be directly involved in phosphorylation of the NPK-eNOS pathway. However, how nitrate activates NPK is next question. Since NPK is a molecule that activates when intracellular ATP is reduced, so we examined the effect of nitrite on intracellular ATP levels. As shown here, after 30 minutes of nitrite stimulation, a significant reduction in intracellular ATP concentration was observed compared to control group. So it was suggested that nitrite-induced decrease in intracellular ATP concentration by nitrite is involved in the activation of NPK. So in summary, nitrite activates NPK directly and decrease in intracellular energy level and may exert a variety of physiological effects. In addition to nitric oxide production by acid decomposition and reduction of nitrite as previously known, nitric oxide production by activation of the NOS-dependent NPK-eNOS pathway may be involved in the renoprotective effect of nitrite we expected. We also demonstrated that phosphorylation of NPK regulate molecule involved in glycolipid metabolism. Nitrate has not been well studied because of its conspicuous toxic effect. But on examination without preconception, we found that nitrite has interesting physiological effects. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your nice presentation, Professor Tsuchiya.
Thank you.
Now is a discussion time. So I invite the question from the audience. Please make a question. You can talk directly or just read in the screen.
I'm sorry, Prof. There is one participant, maybe now two, first Roni and then Henny Cynthia who raised hands.
Okay, please, maybe you can ask directly.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya. I have a few questions regarding your presentation. The first one is, can you explain more why the quercetin increased the nitrate level in vitro experiment? And the second one is, in our lab, we don't have a EPR spectroscopy, so we use spectrophotometer to determine the level of nitric oxide? And can you explain more the advantages of the EPR technique? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I failed to hear the first question, please.
Please,
Sorry.
yeah. First
The
question.
The first question is why the quercetin can increase the nitric oxide levels in vitro experiment, as you mentioned earlier in the presentation.
Quercetin.
So anyway, I start to talk about second question, the EPR technique. Yes. So the reason why I know this EPR instrument can measure the nitric oxide in the blood is come from the idea from forensic science, because I have a friend who is a police office, and he asked me a question whether is it possible to determine the time after bleeding by EPR. That's a question, because after bleeding, the blood contact with molecular oxygen then decompose, and especially blood contain many kinds of amino acid, and some kinds of amino acid oxide to for example amino acid decompose to nitrite, nitrate, and nitric oxide. And after that, the nitric oxide bind to hemoglobin in the red blood cell. And then I find that after bleeding, it is possible to measure the day after bleeding by EPR. That is a hint for nitric oxide measurement by EPR. However, this method is a little bit difficult, because the problem is sensitivity of EPR instrument. The detection limit of EPR is about 100 nanomolar. And the average level of nitric oxide in normal subject is about several 10 nanomolar and up to 100 nanomolar. So it's a limitation. However, in case of diseases, for example, inflammation or taking a lot of nitrite or nitrate, it is possible to measure the level of nitric oxide in the body, in the circulation, without administration of any kind of reagent. Because nitric oxide automatically bind to hemoglobin and circulate in the blood, and we do not have to add any kind of agent, just taking the blood. And then and another difficulty is the measurement is under the liquid nitrogen temperature, because the sensitivity of EPR is dependent on temperature. Low temperature increase the sensitivity compared to room temperature, nearly 100 times. So we choose a method of that we have published in 2003. So we did we wrote a detail about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, next question. Henny, Dr. Noni, Henny, please make a question.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much for the nice presentation about nitrate and nitrate and nitric oxide psychologies. I'm so very interested about this topic. As we know that nitrate and nitrate have a pros and contra. Yeah, one side, nitrate and nitrate as preservative in meat as dyes. because that if not added, nitrate and nitrate can cause brain damage. Because Clostridium botulinum bacteria are heat resistant in canned food, so nitrate and nitrate must be added to prevent this bacteria. Second side, if nitrate and nitrate are added in excess, it can cause nitrate bind to amine compound to form nitrosamine carcinogenic in the body. So as we know that nitric oxide can enlarge blood vessel, thereby preventing blockage in blood pressure to prevent heart disease. What do you think about nitrate and nitrate case, as we know that nitrate and nitrate source from water, from vegetable and meat product? My question that, do this nitrate and nitrate have beneficial or detrimental effect? Thank you, Prof. This is about my question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. But sometimes I miss to catch your talk. I'm so sorry. So, Dr. Bango, could you?
Maybe Dr. Hennis said that there are two aspects. There is a toxicity effect of nitrate. For example, it binds with hemoglobin or form how to say carcinogenic agent. And how about if we take nitrate from the plant, from the vegetable? Is it good for our health? Maybe it is the question, yeah, from the vegetable, is it dangerous or not? Because it contains also nitrate, or maybe depend upon the dose. So I don't know. So yeah, is it can good for our health or not?
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting, but very heavy question. Because in case of Japan, Japanese Agriculture Foundation, till 2019, they put very strict restriction to add nitrate or nitrite to agriculture items. And however, as I show in this lecture, and according to the epidemiological research, the intake of nitrate did not cause any any gastric cancer was found, and however, it's still under examination. It's very hard to present here, because in case of plants, it contains not only nitrate and nitrite, but also it contains many kinds of antioxidant. And when antioxidant bind to nitrate or nitrite, it inhibit to produce nitrosamine and only produce nitric oxide. So if someone taking nitrite itself, I think it is not good for health. I expect that nitrate, including in vegetable, is good for health. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. Is it okay, Dr. Henny?
Thank you, Prof.
You have another question? Okay. Okay, I invite another question.
Maybe in the chat.
Yeah.
Chat.
Please in the chat.
We are going to view the
Okay,
questions.
okay, yeah. This is the question from the chat. What are benefit nitrate in pharmacy? And what are mechanism nitrate in metabolism, glucose and lipid? Yeah. This is the question, Professor Chucia. Maybe you have explained also, but there is a question also. Yeah.
Okay. benefit nitrate in pharmacy. In pharmacy. I think there, in case of pharmacy, there is no benefit, I expect, because recently there was a problem that nitrosamine was included in medicine, because nitrosamine is produced by nitrite with amine, and during the process of producing medicine, it automatically and sometimes it produces unexpectedly. So I think that for pharmacists, nitrite is not a good item, I think. And the second question is, what's the mechanism nitrate in metabolism groups? And okay, so the second question, the answer is second question is, as I mentioned in my slide, nitrite facilitate upgrade activation of NPK. That is a mechanism of it, because NPK activation is a very important thing for humans, because do you know the drug name of drug metformin? Metformin is a very famous drug for diabetic patients. And metformin is a famous drug to activate NPK. So metformin is known as not only for diabetic patient, but to expand the lifetime due to the activation of NPK. So in this point, nitrite ingestion, not the inorganic compound of nitrate, but nitrate or nitrite from vegetable is good for glucose and lipid metabolite for human, I expect.
Okay, thank you. Another question? Another question? I invite another question.
Oh, excuse me. May I have...
Okay, Professor Johnson, silakan.
Thank you very much for time.
Okay. Yeah.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
So I just want to ask you about the in America, if I'm not wrong, the use of nitrate and nitrate as a preservative must be combined with vitamin C to prevent the production reaction between nitrate and alkylamine to produce nitrosamine. What about in this country? It's in Japan also like that? There's one thing, one question. And another one is that by physical activity in our body, that NO, which has vasodilation action, will produce when we have physical activity. There is one way to reduce blood pressure. Is that right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first question is vitamin C. Excuse me?
Yes, vitamin C.
Vitamin C with nitrite?
To
Yes.
to prevent reaction to form nitrosamine. That is the reason.
Okay. So in the presence of vitamin C, the formation of nitrosamine formation will be prohibited because in a stomach, nitrite bind with hydrogen to produce HNO2. HNO2 is automatically decomposed to NO plus. And NO plus is very toxic. However, in the presence of vitamin C, NO plus change to NO dot, nitric oxide radical, is safe. So that's the reason why vitamin C and other reducing agent prohibit the formation of nitrosamine, I expect.
Okay. What about the second question?
What's the second question? Sorry.
Well, there is information that by physical activity will produce the nitric oxide, which can reduce blood pressure. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Because nitric oxide will acting as vasodilation.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. That's confirmation. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Johnson Silalahi.
Prof, we will share again the questions.
Yeah, please. This is
okay, thank you.
From Emil Salim.
Okay. The first question is bacteria in this. Yes. The first question, the answer is yes. Especially in oral cavity, there are much amount of bacteria that reduce nitrate to nitrite. However, the conversion of nitrite to nitric oxide is I'm not sure what kind of bacteria will do it, because nitric oxide itself, it bind, as I told you in this presentation, nitric oxide bind heme protein. That means when a huge amount of nitric oxide had produced in the bacteria, the heme protein will bind nitric oxide directly and reduce the activity of bacteria. Therefore, I think that conversion of nitrite to nitric oxide in the body is not major pathway, I expect. And the second question, yes. And the second question is, I think it will be possible to do it. I want to do. The third question, improve lifespan, nitrate. Lifespan. As far as I know, I have no idea. Thank you.
Okay, we will move to next question.
The answer is simple answer is yes. However, in my experiment, I tried to this kind of expense many times. And we found that at the first week after administration, the concentration of nitrite in the blood is easy to increase. However, 3 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks after administration, the level of nitrite is gradually decreased. Even same amount of nitrite is administered. So this means much amount of nitrite or nitrate administration will facilitate the excrete of nitrite and nitrate into urine. Of course, the amount of nitrite and nitrate in urine is gradually increased with time. So anyway, the conversion of nitrite to nitric oxide is occur in the body. It's yes. However, the level of conversion is not sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question?
Yes, Prof. Okay. Please wait a minute.
Yeah, this is from Brayugo.
Oh, okay. 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 The EPR instrument. This instrument specifically measure the unpaired electron. And the nitric oxide. We wrote the nitric oxide NO dot. That means free unpaired electron. And in case of deoxyhemoglobin, it has a ferrous form of ion Fe2 plus, and Fe2 plus has no EPR signal. However, in case of methemoglobin, it's Fe3 plus, and one electron has omitted, and methemoglobin has EPR signal. However, the position of radical is a little bit apart from nitric oxide deoxyhemoglobin. And the nitric oxide deoxyhemoglobin is a conversion of nitric oxide dot with Fe2 plus, means the compound NO dot with Fe2 plus show one unpaired electron. So it is possible to detect by EPR instrument. So many people ask me why nitric oxide itself measure the EPR instrument without deoxyhemoglobin. However, as I told you, the lifetime of nitric oxide radical is very, very short, and it is impossible to measure by EPR because while sampling from animal, the nitric oxide radical will disappear. That's the reason why we use nitric oxide radical, the compound nitric oxide radical with deoxyhemoglobin as a natural radical trapping agent to measure nitric oxide in animal experiments. Is okay?
Thank you. Is another question?
Yes, Prof. Please wait a minute.
There are many questions.
Udah banyak ditanya Roni.
Huh? This is from Halima. Yeah.
Overproduction. Okay. The disease related to overproduction of nitric oxide is, for example, inflammation. At the place of inflammation, it rapidly activates the ions, inducible NOS to produce huge amount of nitric oxide. And how we will decrease the production of nitric oxide for treatment to scavenge the nitric oxide. An alternative treatment to remove the nitric oxide in the body. I don't know. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I have no idea about it.
Okay. There's another question.
But overproduction of nitric oxide sometimes septic shock, related to septic shock. Okay.
Any more questions?
Prof, no. Huh? Oh, sorry, Prof. There is other question.
Maybe one more question.
There is another question, Prof.
Yeah.
Please wait a minute.
This is from Nur Aini.
Okay, thank you. So in my presentation, I show literature written by Dr. Lundberg in 2010, and he in his paper he wrote many kinds of food to produce to contain nitrate, and he also demonstrated that in athlete or if they ate nitrate-rich vegetable, the performance of everything will update, he said. And what kind of vegetable is red radish? I know. Red radish. Do you know? I'm not sure, but it's not popular in Japan, but in North European, it major vegetable, and it improve the health condition, he said. Please check it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more question?
There is one question, Prof.
Maybe the last one.
Okay,
One
last
more?
one, Prof.
Okay,
Okay,
last
wait
one.
a
Yeah.
minute, Prof.
Yeah. Okay, last one. From Sri Rauda. Yeah.
So, my answer is taking a nitrite itself is not good for health, I expected, because as I already mentioned, nitrite itself, of course, decomposed to nitric oxide in the stomach, however, without reductants. So it's easy to produce nitrosamine. And of course, nitrosamine, toxicity of nitrosamine is restricted for rodent and ruminants. However, we cannot expect the possibility to cause cancer for humans. Therefore, my recommendation to I'm not recommend too much amount of intake of nitrite. So, because some website, some people say that intake of nitrite is good for health, but I don't agree about it. So, my opinion is to take a lot of vegetable. It's good for health. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much, Professor Chuchia, for your presentation. We have discussed also many questions, and you have explained all. So your presentation today is, you present the new research for us about nitrate. So it is very useful for us, because in Indonesia also many vegetable, maybe also it contains nitrate. Thank you very much. So I give time to the Dr. Emil again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Great talk from Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya. Thank you, Prof. And thank you, Prof. Hakim Bangun. Okay. Now I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Sumatera Utara, to give a certificate to our speaker, Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya, and moderator, Professor Hakim Bangun, PhD Apotheker. Okay, the first one to Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya.
Thank you, Prof, for the nice talk. Yeah, here is my certificate from us. This is once again I say thank you for presentation.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Koichiro Tsuchiya, and
Thank you very much.
And we will send the certificate.
Yes, we will send.
Yes.
Via email.
Not just the show.
Okay, next to Professor Hakim Bangun.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Professor.
thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Great talk from Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya. Next, allow us to show you the video profile of the Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Sumatera Utara, and Master and Doctoral in Pharmaceutical Science, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Sumatera Utara.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Khairunisa SSI M.Pharm PhD Apoteker. Saya Dekan Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara periode 2021-2026. Selamat datang di video profil Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara.
Fakultas Farmasi USU adalah salah satu pendidikan tinggi farmasi negeri di Pulau Sumatera dan satu-satunya di Sumatera Utara. Sejarah berdirinya Fakultas Farmasi dimulai dengan dibukanya jurusan farmasi pada tahun 1969 di bawah FIPIA USU. Selanjutnya, FIPIA USU di tahun 1980 berubah nama menjadi Fakultas MIPA USU. Di tahun 2006, Departemen Farmasi berpisah dari Fakultas MIPA dan menjadi Fakultas ke-11 di lingkungan Universitas Sumatera Utara dengan nama Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara dengan surat keputusan Rektor Universitas Sumatera Utara tertanggal 8 Agustus 2006 tentang pembukaan Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara. Saat ini Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara memiliki satu program studi jenjang diploma analis farmasi dan makanan, satu program studi jenjang sarjana farmasi, satu program studi profesi apoteker, satu program studi jenjang magister ilmu farmasi, satu program studi jenjang doktoral ilmu farmasi. Fasilitas yang dimiliki Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara terdapat 16 laboratorium, Perpustakaan Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara, masjid, aula, pendopo.
Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Sumatera Utara akan terus memberi kontribusi terhadap bidang penelitian dan pengabdian untuk Indonesia Jaya.
We are sorry, Prof. Chia, we haven't translated to English. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching our video profile. Now, I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Tokushima University, Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya, to give a speech. Please, Prof.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you joining us today. As the Dean first mentioned, Sumatra Uta University and Tokushima University signed an MOU in 2019 and also renewed the MOU in 2021. As I read back the MOU, it stated joint research, exchange of research information, and personal exchange. The global pandemic of the last few years has restricted the exchange of researchers and students. However, today's internet-based exchanges have removed the restriction of time and place. I believe it has also pointed us in a new direction for international exchange. I think it is especially important for the young generation to participate in international exchange. I hope that today's exchange meeting will be an opportunity to continue the good relationship between the two universities for a long time to come. Thank you very much for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you again to Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya. And also I would like to thank Professor Yasuo Shinohara, who facilitated this relationship from the beginning. And of course, we like to come to Japan, especially to Tokushima, to visit Tokushima University. I hope this can be happen in the next years. Okay.
Excuse me, Emil. Professor Shinohara is still joined.
Yes, I'm participating.
Yeah, maybe please talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for nice arrangement of this meeting. I was very pleased with. I enjoyed very much to participate in. I hope we can continue our nice relationship in future also. Especially this time was I was quite surprised with a nice arrangement of the meeting, webinar, so-called webinar. It is quite nicely arranged. Many questions and answers were made between the participant and Professor Koichiro Tsuchiya. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much for your nice arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yasuo Shinohara. Okay.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Professor Yasuo Shinohara. Last time I met you in Kanazawa, 2018. I met you in the street.
I remember. I remember you.
Yes, I already come back to Indonesia.
Okay. I was quite surprised when you told me at the Kanazawa station.
Yes.
unexpectedly you caught me in front of the Kanazara station among 7,000 participants to the meeting.
Yes. Actually, I look for you, but however, I meet you unintentionally in the street. Lucky.
Thank you very much for
I
your
was
nice
lucky.
arrangement.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our event. I hope this event increase our knowledge about the physiological effects of nitrate. Thank you for joining us today and have a great day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Prof. Sinora. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Genki de.
Yeah.
Genki de. Yeah.
Prof. Hakim, terima kasih banyak. Bu Khairunisa, Bu Iwan.
Terima kasih ya, Prof.
Ya, makasih banyak. Ya.
Bu Anne juga ada di sini.
Ini range-nya bagus sama buat Emil ini kan.
Semua ini Prof, ini banyak yang berpartisipasi nih Prof. Saya cuman ininya yang berkomunikasi dengan Prof.
Ya, banyak pertanyaan kan bagus, jadi hidup diskusinya kan.
Iya Prof.
Iya, bagus lah. Dia pun senang gitu. Jadi kalau ada yang mau belajar ke sana kan boleh, bisa tanya informasi kan. Mana tahu ada mau visit atau studi lanjut ya bisa kita tanya gitu. Ya.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much ya.
Bye.
Ya.
Matur nuwun.